When the mortuary girl said those words, I was shocked to my bone marrow. Maya, Baiko, wait, I gestured with my hand, while readjusting my position. If my dad asked your mom to stay there, that means he knows about you. It means he knows about everything, is that true? Yes, he does. She nodded. Omo, as I heard this, I became even more confused. I felt like confronting my dad immediately to ask him lots of questions. Could that be the reason he didn't want to see me with Maya? My head didn't just balance again. But on a second thought, I had to calm down. Maybe things weren't the way they seemed on the outside. One thing I had learnt in life is rushing to a conclusion. That thing can destroy all. So tell me, how come about your iron dead, Nja, yes, on your body? Ever since my mom ran from home, he thinks I know her whereabouts. And he thinks that the only way to get me to spill was by beating me. While she was answering this question, she began to look around the area, as if to confirm if anyone was coming. I sensed fear in her eyes. Sorry about that, dear. You people are going through a lot, honestly. I said, trying to show empathy, but her next response came as a surprise. I want to start going now before they notice my absence in the house. She abruptly said and stood up. Even when I proposed to see her off, she blatantly refused. Are you really this scared? I found myself asking. It was almost as if the request made her uncomfortable. I didn't know why. But I understood her fears. I stood still and watched her zoom off. While I was there, the thought of confronting my dad hit me again. Whether good or bad, I needed to know the truth from Papa. Now, most of the time, he didn't usually come home after the day's work because there were always things to do in the mortuary. A relative of one deceased person could just come and request to take their corpse. Or a new deceased would be brought in for embalming. So many things. I got to know a few of these during the times I eavesdropped on his conversation with Mama. Being an only child came with lots of misbehavior. But that night, I was certain he would return home because he had earlier told me the time I went to deliver his food. He said his colleague would be on duty that night. So it was around 7 p.m. when he returned home. I waited till he had his bath and ate dinner. The moment my mom left him for the restroom, I went to him immediately. Brothers and sisters, I was scared, oh, very scared. Because what if he had just upped me? He was seated on the bed when I went inside his room. I greeted him and walked closer. He responded, but with a small illumination from the lantern, I saw how he stared at me strangely, wondering what I had come to do. Michael, how did you know this? He had asked, too surprised as to how I got that information. And for the first time in a long while, I saw fear flashed in his eyes. He asked me to shut the door and come sit beside him. Shutting the door was to make sure my mom didn't get to hear anything. The mortuary girl's voice refused to leave my head even after I shut the door and sat close to Papa. Michael, before I say anything, I want to say this first. He paused and his eyes fell intensely on me, like he wanted to scare me away. You're my son. And inasmuch as I love and trust you, for the safety of my job, I wanted my affiliation with that woman and her daughter to remain discreet. The room felt very calm and quiet. Somewhere in me drifted to where Mama was at that time, because she was supposed to be inside with her husband now. I kept wondering what Mama was still doing in the bathroom. That woman could pray anywhere, maybe the spirit carried her there tonight. My own thought was that she shouldn't come anytime soon until I was done with Papa. Rain was drizzling at about 7 p.m. that cold evening when I heard a woman's wail outside the mortuary. That kind of shout was unusually strange in that area at such a time. So I became alert. Were you the only one on duty? I asked. Yes, he mumbled subtly, his voice slightly above a whisper. That day my colleagues were not on duty. I began to wonder who this person was. Lo and behold, when I peeped through the door and checked, it was the community chief's wife. I swallowed hard. The chief's wife? I whispered. Chills ran down my spine. Now you see why I didn't want to see you and that girl together, ABI. Now you have seen it now, ABI. When I ask you to listen, you will not listen. Despite all he said, He maintained a low tone, but the frustration in his voice could be felt. But at that moment, I knew Papa had deviated and there was only one way to bring him back without making matters worse. "So what happened as you saw her?" I asked. He paused and shook his head like a woman who is going through labor pains. That woman, a part of her wrapper was torn, her hair was tattered. It would have been difficult to distinguish her from a mad woman. Immediately she saw me, she ran to me and begged me that I should help her. She said her husband wanted her dead. He wanted her dead. I asked to be sure, because that was exactly what Maya had told me, and it also reminded me of the dream I had. She pleaded with me to hide her till she could find her way out of this community, since the mortuary would be the last place her husband would think of while in search of her. He adjusted his white singlet and gazed at me. "Mike, I was in a dilemma. But one thing I want you to learn is that, what makes a man to be a man is the ability to make tough and difficult decisions in times of adversity." To be honest, when I heard this my chest tightened. If curiosity really kills a cat as they usually say, that night would have been my last on planet Earth. How about her daughter? How did she find this place? I pressed. I don't know about that. But from when she started sneaking into the mortuary to see her mother, I couldn't do anything. The least I can do is to make sure no one finds out. Because if anyone does, only God knows what the outcome would be. "No more questions," Hopper said, with a more coercive voice. He rose slowly as if he was waiting for me to leave. "Keep this to yourself, Michael." The sentence landed heavily like a lid closing over my heart. And after putting myself in my father's position, I sensed his fears, they were valid. Plus, getting to know Maya was the chief's daughter too. Anxiety and panic enveloped my body. The door opened and as I stepped out, I didn't expect to see who I saw. Everything the mortuary girl told me aligned with Papa's confession, and the realization alone tightened something in my chest. The moment I stepped out from Papa's room, I didn't expect to see who I saw at the doorpost. And because there was no lantern outside, the place was dark. I froze like a statue, terrified. My body was covered in goosebumps. So even in darkness you can't recognize your mother. Immediately I heard that voice, her laughter. I heaved a sigh of relief. "So Mama, it's you." "No, this woman wanted to send me to an early grave." When I got to my room, I just fell on my bed out of exhaustion and slept off. The next morning, Papa left the house very early to work. For the meantime, I needed to wash a few dirty clothes, so while I was doing that, Mama walked up to me, carrying a small wooden chair. In that very moment I knew one thing, that this woman wanted to gossip about something. And from the way she positioned the chair, I knew this wasn't ordinary gossip. Mama wanted information. "Michael, my son," she began, with that usual smile she often used whenever she wanted to confuse Papa. "How was your night?" she asked. "Mommy, good morning. My night was fine. How about yours?" I mumbled. My gaze was fixed on my bucket of clothes as I washed them. She cleared her throat and looked around. Then she continued, "If your night was fine as you said, then tell me what you and your father were talking about while I was away." "Oh Mama, you should have asked him yourself now." I scoffed. Well, knowing he was tired and needed to rest, I didn't want to disturb him now. Besides, I trusted you to give me the gist later. How can you trust a son that doesn't trust himself enough? As I asked this one, we both burst into laughter. That woman was a low-key comedian. I can't even lie. She soon left me to the kitchen when she realized I was gonna be a hard nut to crack, and that was the chance to finish washing my clothes, too. Around 1 p.m., Mama was done preparing Papa's lunch. As usual, she handed the flask to me to take to him. On my way out of the mortuary, something in my spirit felt restless. Maya was sitting there quietly. She was clad on a white top and blue skirt, barefoot. The moment she saw me coming, her face emanated a warm smile that was almost breathtaking. For the first time, she voluntarily stood up to offer me a hug. She opened her arms wide apart. Brothers and sisters, if you saw the way I rushed in her. But I was cautious enough not to touch her injured ears. "How are you?" I asked after we broke apart. Still standing, she gazed firmly at me. Michael, one of my father's guards has traced me down here. The mortuary girl stood just beside me. Her breath touched my lips. The closeness between us lasted only a second before fear swallowed her face. Michael, one of my father's guards has traced me down here, she whispered as if she just realized. How? I asked, surprised. How did it happen? Mike, he followed me from the house, her voice dropped, as if she was scared of her own words. I didn't know, not until I reached the junction beside the cemetery. I looked back and saw him hiding behind one mango tree. She added. Instantly, a cold breeze swept across my skin. But how about? A sudden urgency entered her tone, sharp enough to cut through my confusion. Please, you need to go now, Michael, she said, cutting my speech midway. Why? I mumbled subtly, searching her face for an immediate response. If he sees you with me, he will think you are aiding myself and my mom. I don't want to get you involved, please. Where's your mom? I asked, my voice quivered a little bit. The moment I asked her that, her eyes glistened with something between fear and sadness. Her voice cracked slightly, and that was when the fear hit me properly. She didn't sleep where she usually sleeps last night, she muttered. Michael. I can't find her. My breath paused for a moment. You mean she's missing? Whatever reply she wanted to give died immediately when we heard it. We heard a soft cough, very close to the almond tree where we stood. Just behind the wall of the mortuary. Maya's fingers began to tremble. Before I could look around to see the exact source of the sounds, I heard Maya scream, Michael, run. Omo, I didn't know the next thing that happened. But what I could remember was that I found myself running. Maya's skirt almost caused her trip one time, but I held her. The path was bushy, quiet and lonely. Why am I even running? The thought erupted abruptly. That was how I gathered small courage and turned back, and just like Maya had said, it was one of the community chief's guard. He was dressed like them. In a bid to catch my breath, I reached an unexpected halt. When I did, he finally caught up with me. My heart was beating terribly, slamming against my rib, and I was sweating profusely. Fortunately, I saw a piece of wood on the ground, so I bent down and grabbed it immediately. Maya suddenly joined me from behind. Your father requests your presence now, the guard said, panting. And if I don't? She screamed behind me. He didn't answer. I was still expecting to hear his answer, but Baba was smart. He ran behind me and grabbed Maya. Thank God I still had the piece of wood with me. Without wasting a second, I landed it on his head. The mortuary girl and I were sweating profusely like we were going to die any moment. Our hearts pounded like war drums. Immediately after the wood struck the guard's head, he toppled, weak and groaning. The cutlass slipped from his hand as if it had betrayed him. Maya stepped closer, her body trembling. Is he dead? She whispered, fear still in her eyes. Can't you see he's still breathing? I muttered, scanning the shadows around the bushes. Something about trees made me feel like unseen eyes were watching. Let's go now, I said, gripping her hand tightly. We ran through the winding path. At one point, Maya almost tripped over her skirt, and instinctively, I caught her. The bushy path stretched endlessly, and it wasn't until I slowed to catch my breath that I realized how far we had come. Behind us, I knew the guard would eventually crawl back to the palace, but for now, we were safe. Finally, we reached the mortuary. Maya was ahead of me, her bare feet was silent on the dusty ground. Then we saw it. A police van sat parked outside. Flashing lights cut through the gloom, reflecting in the mortuary's windows. My heart leapt into my throat. Who called the police? I asked, my voice cracking. My mind immediately darted to my father. What if they found out he was hiding the chief's wife? I thought, panic rising in waves. Maya's eyes went wide as she saw her father. He was handcuffed, flustered, and bewildered. Not long after, her mother stepped out through the small mortuary gate, her expression filled with relief. Who called the police? Maya stammered again, trying to piece everything together. I really don't know, her voice was trembling. And then, I saw him. My father stepped out of the mortuary, his expression was calm and unreadable. My heart skipped a beat. "Papa, you," I began, suspicion and a worrying in my chest. He raised a hand gently, stopping me. "Everything worked out, didn't it, son?" he said quietly, a subtle smile tugging at the corner of his lips. That was it dawned on me that it was my father that orchestrated everything, the arrest, the timing, the police. He had protected Maya and her mother, and somehow, he had protected me too. Maya looked at me, fear still lingering in her eyes, but now mingled with wonder. I took a deep breath. This was the moment I could no longer hold back. "Maya," I said, my voice low but steady. "I can't hide it anymore. Ever since the day I met you, I felt something I can't explain. I love you. I've loved you all this time, and I don't want to spend another day without you knowing that." Her lips parted, and for a moment, the words stopped. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her face. "Michael," she whispered, her hands trembling as she reached for mine. I took her hand, holding it tightly. "Today, I and Maya are happily married." Moral lesson of the story. The Mortuary Girl teaches that not everything, or everyone, should be judged by where you found them, what they've been through, or what the world whispers about them. Sometimes the people we fear the most are the ones who need understanding, not rejection. The story shows that trauma does not define identity. A painful past does not cancel the right to a future. Love can reveal truth, but truth may demand sacrifice. Caring for someone means facing what scares you, not turning away. Silence protects lies, but courage protects lives. Darkness grows where secrets are buried. Only honesty breaks generational fear. People are more than their rumors, their mistakes, or their scars. It reminds us that a heart that has suffered can still be capable of love. A soul that was broken can still return home. Someone feared by the world may only be asking to be seen. Do not fear the wounded. Fear the hands that wounded them. Those who have suffered are not cursed, they are surviving. Respect them. Understand them. Help them heal. Not every spirit is a monster. Not every human is innocent. And not every miracle looks like light, some arrive dressed in mystery. In the end, the Mortuary Girl tells us that redemption is possible. Healing is possible. Even for those touched by death, destiny can still offer life. Do not define people by their darkest moment. See who they are becoming, not where they were found. Understanding heals. Fear destroys. Love reveals truth. Support Laugh Drops 3. If this story hooked you, don't stop here. Like to show love. Share to spread the thrill. Comment your thoughts, I'm watching. Subscribe so you never miss the next chapter. Happy New Year. Cheers to new stories, new twists, and a new journey together. Laugh Drops 3, where every twist leaves a mark.